Well, I got to admit, I love me some PSA slabs, but this week's state of affairs got under my skin. I think it's between the actions that they have taken in 2025 and content that I'm hearing over and over again, and more particularly in the area that the set registry is a dying thing. Um, I let that go earlier this week and just kind of brushed it off, and it seemed like it keeps poking its head at me. So this one is going to be heavy PSA. I know it's not a topic of choice for many of you, but it is for me. And I just want this opportunity to take this one video and talk specifically PSA. And what really struck the fuse this week is a price increase. At first, that it started off as a rumor that was surfacing earlier in the week, and that rumor, the source to that rumor was some reel that some Santiago Sports released, and so social media just took off with that. And there hadn't been anything officially released by PSA yet, but the rumors were flying, and I ignored them and left them as rumor. And then, as I record this video here on Thursday night, the news officially dropped on PSA's website. And so it got me to do a little bit of fact checking, and it got me to really sit down and reflect kind of what my next move is here, because I've almost about had it, but I have to take all things into consideration. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. You ready? Then let's do this. Well, hey, hello, and welcome back to our channel, Rookie Card Collecting Friends, as I just jump right into this thing because I did not want to respond. I didn't want to do like a knee-jerk reaction, and I didn't want to come off emotional, but rather more fact-driven. And then I want to kind of filter my thoughts, and then that brings me to a final conclusion on what my next move is going to be or what my options are. So that's kind of where things are at. But I started off doing some fact-checking because I was hearing a lot of hearsay and a lot of speculation that really had no valid source, in my opinion. I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. And this is kind of where, as I was doing the research and fact checking things and to seeing if this was true, the news dropped. And so the timing was very ironic. But I want to share real quickly kind of a major concern that I had. And what I did was I created a timeline of what has happened this year in 2025. And when we study it, we can see that in September of 2022, right, bulk grading reopened. And that's kind of my lane, my area is I am a collectors club member. And I do that because I am a heavy set registry guy. And that allows me then to take advantage of value bulk, which is a primary benefit of being a member. And so September of 2022, bulk grading reopens, but it had new prices, right? The bulk rate for collectors members when they reopened was $22 a card. There was a lot of backlash from the hobby. A lot of people felt that was ridiculous, and grading volume dropped. And what happened then, as the beginning of 2024 rolls around, well, they went ahead and dropped the prices to $19. And so, as it turns out, um, submission volume increased, and then January of 2025 they dropped the bomb on us, and that was collectors club value bulk goes from $19 a card to $20 a card. Also, increases in express that went from $129 to $149. Super express $249 a card to $299 a card. And walkthroughs went from $499 to $599. Kind of a really big increase in prices. But a lot of it was on the higher end stuff. A lot of us kind of felt, well, that's, it's the higher end. That's the price you have to pay for having big boy cards. And but they also had one in there for the collectors club, a value buck, bulk. It went from 19 to 20. So they went up across the board. And April 18th rolls around, or April 8th, I'm sorry. And the volume of TCG cards was steadily increasing. And that's how come we see the numbers on a month-over-month basis that we're seeing. But on April 8th, they released a press release stating that TCG bulk is going from $16.99 to $18.99. And turnaround times, we're going to go from 45-day to 65 days. I thought this was a significant jump, but it was on the TCG side, didn't really affect me. So it didn't bother me all that much. But then at the same time, on the value bulk for sports cards, they also went up from 45 days to 65 days. That's almost 3 weeks longer that they're doing turnaround time. So this now, what shocks me the most here on September 24th is there's going to be another price increase starting on Thursday, September 25th. They have announced that there is going to be another price increase. This is now the third one this year. And so that's very concerning to me. Right now, the Collectors Club value is at, we see here, $19. Let's just call it $20 a card if you're a Collectors Club member. And that's the value bulk price, is $20 a card. Well, apparently this is now going to go up to value bulk. It's going to go up to $22. So they've increased it to $22. Now, a lot of people think and say, well, hey, I don't understand the Collectors Club. Is it really worth it anymore? And as a matter of fact, there's a very interesting thread that I found on X that I want to share with you. Here it is here. And the Card Collector Pro says here in this post, I canceled my PSA card subscription because the annual fee and the grading fees are too expensive, even with discounts. The specials have been horrible in 2025. Turnaround times are too long and customer service stinks. Curious if anyone else is also canceling. This is a very intriguing post, especially when you look at the comments. Let's look at a few of them. My response to this was, and this really got me, this post really resonated with me quite a bit, but I says, I'll be canceling mine in December. I assume that's what they want to happen. Also, I feel like they're wanting to steer the market away from sending in bulk low value cards. And I think I'm probably responding in an emotional way here. I believe I was frustrated with the Collectors Club. I was frustrated with the rumors going on about price increases. I was frustrated with the state of the set registry, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But here we see what is the community reaction. Here we see John Mooney says, PSA card is the pinnacle of grading of cards. Sure, we all want our orders to be faster in PSA grading. However, demand for PSA card makes any delay worth the wait. For those of us that buy and sell PSA cards, be patient. PSA card is the best of the best. Okay, that's one man's opinion. Here we see Hangwire says, I'm new to grading for selling purposes. There's a red flag for me there. Part of the problem. But I mainly rip retail with a few hobby boxes a year. It's a casual hobby for me. I'm very passionate about other expensive hobbies. Sports cards are an expense for me, and I'm okay with that. Yukon Gold Refractor says, yep, I canceled mine. It's basically an overpriced magazine subscription at this point. The Silly Slice Son says, just submit through GameStop. Dolo says, I paid for an annual subscription because of a magazine promo I saw. They never sent the magazine, admitted to an error on their end, and refused to refund me. PSA support said that the magazine is just a bonus and not guaranteed. I disputed the charge with my bank, and that just got into a really big mess. Chris Ojeda says, I'm shocked people still use PSA despite their atrocious turnaround times and blind graders dishing out random grades. Make BGS great again. Ryan here states, same. As a vintage collector, they don't offer the deals like they did in 2024. Mine expires in November. Swirls Gets Girls. He says, I canceled mine due to inconsistency in grading and getting upcharged on a card that got a PSA 8. Basically, just want you to submit again and give them even more money. I went from getting an 80% gem rate to 15% gem rate on my last order. Oh, wow. Yeah, this just continues to get worse and worse here, folks. It's very, I'm going to stop there because I don't want to discourage anyone in any way. But the point here is the hobby is, I believe there is a lot of the consumer confidence is not good. And I say all of that to say this is that I feel like upper brass at PSA. I think they need to do like what the president of the United States does. Once or twice a year, they will have a State of the Union address. I think PSA needs to do something like that. I think upper brass needs to come out and answer some of these tough questions and frustrations that collectors are going through. Maybe some justification as to why we've seen 3 price increases in 2025, and I would like for something like that to happen to bring back consumer confidence, because I love PSA. Trust me when I tell you, you guys already know how. If you know me, you know that I'm pro PSA. But can I tell you, even me, somebody who is loyal, but also at the same time, I'm feeling frustrated with how things are. I don't want to say being ran, but the way things are evolving. It's I'm feeling discouraged, and so I think a State of the Union address. I think it needs to be more than a overly polished corporate podcast that they have that asks all the right questions and gives all the right answers. I believe it has to be more than Mr. Hodges coming on, and when faced with a semi softball question or a semi hard question, there is a smirk, and all we do is speak in we'll have to wait and see type of responses, and I don't know. I just wish we would confront issues a little bit more clearly, be a little bit more transparent. I think that was the big bonus that SGC had. They had somebody at the chair that was extremely transparent, and I think that element is what's needed at this hour. To be honest with you, I'm really reconsidering my membership. I know they have the regular membership at 149, and then they have the Prime membership at 199. And so that's a different tier that they've included this year. I don't know what I'm going to do just yet. I guess I'll have to decide here pretty soon. But I will say this is that sometimes I feel like they want to do away with the set registry. I think the set registry has become burdensome. I think they're trying to control the flow of submissions that come to them. I think that's how come they're fluctuating the prices so much. I do think that they made at the PSA set registry dinner a couple of years ago. They announced that they were doing some really big changes to the set registry website, and they advertised those as coming soon. But it's been over 2 years now, and the set registry database in and of itself hasn't changed at all. But and it's hard because of a large portion of the set registry is base cards. If you look at the totality of set registries and all the cards that are in there, they are basically a large majority of them is base cards, and there is such a demand to grade base cards. And the ends is not justifying the means anymore. Now, when we're going from $20 a card to $22 a card, and if I don't have a collector's club membership, the cards are going to go up to $28 a card. Those are my choices. So that's I believe it's 28. Let me double check here. Yes, value. If you're not a collector's club member and you want value submission, it's going to go up to $28 a card. So $22 a card or $28 a card. That's kind of what I'm facing. There also has been no improvements to, merge with SGC. We figured that would be a perfect opportunity to merge the two set registries together. That didn't happen. There seems to be lacking interest in the set registry. I don't know what the numbers are, but I know amongst content creators, there seems to be a disinterest anymore in the amount of set registry users. They're not gaining any more set registry users, I don't believe. But again, I'm speculating, and honest to goodness, that's how come I would love to see a State of the Union address. It was kind of the comment that I left when I filled out the survey for the set registry dinner. I said, hey man, I would love to, they asked for remarks or suggestions. That was my suggestion. I would love to, let's get some real talk going. Let's stop the corporate, overly polished hype machine, and let's get down to the nitty gritty. What's really happening? Talk to us. A lot of us are loyal supporters, and we're going to understand. And but it's one of them things where nothing is said, and so all we're left to do is speculate. And I am speculating here. It's also worth stating here that these are my feelings. This is how I'm feeling right now. This is my opinion right now. My opinion is subject to change from day to day. I can feel down today, up tomorrow. It's my opinion. There's also been the issue. Not only did we have three price shifting of prices this year and extended lead times, turnaround times, we also have the issue of inconsistent grading, and this is very difficult for me to swallow as well. This was also in January of 2025, where it seemed like there was this silent policy change that happened, and the grading standards changed, more specifically in the centering and that sort of thing. Uh, but I think a lot of times, to be honest with you, I think we did that. It's one of them things where be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. And there's so many like constant complaints about certain grades and that sort of thing. I think they says, okay, you want us to be consistent. You want more true grades. Okay. And so I think they've done that. And I think that's what we're seeing. Also, I believe this changing of the grading standard really brings back the value of PSA 9s. When you have PSA 9s that are considered worthless or considered less than raw, I think that's an imbalance in the ecosystem of PSA grading. It's just like, if it's not a PSA 10, it's garbage. And that has historically, that has not been the case. Nines were a very respectable card, still with some solid value, because it's a mint card. And that just seems to have gone to the wayside as well. Our selfishness of, or greediness of wanting to sell has taken over that portion of it, and nines are considered less than now. And that's crazy. Although personally, I prefer PSA 10s for my PC. But I think when it comes down to it, here's what we got to understand. We got to understand, like, why did grading even come to be? And I remember it being a dealer in the early 90s. I was in my 20s already. I was doing card shows. I wasn't a little kid that didn't understand hobby or nothing like that. But it was one of them things where the biggest problem that we had was dealers. And I tell you, I think dealers are a big part of a lot of these problems. But I recall back in the day, obviously Beckett was the go-to price guide, but they also had like a near mint column and a mint column. So take any card, there was two prices, and one of them was in near mint condition. The other one was mint condition. Well, when you were selling cards, the card was never in good enough shape. You were lucky to get a near mint value on it when you were selling. But when they're selling, well, their cards are all mint, and there was a lot of like going back and forth with condition. And then we started having, and that was in the early 90s. And I just really realized that the twisting and the manipulating of the condition played a big deal at card shows and amongst dealers and customers. Also, come mid to late 90s, we had a lot of like counterfeits just going on with all kinds of stuff. And so that was a prevalent problem. We had computers coming on board, the printer technology was getting better and better. And this is how come this grading concept came to be. And it was because of counterfeits. We wanted to authenticate them, and we wanted to remove the disagreement of what condition the card is in, so that dealers can stop manipulating the market, or collectors as well. I think it goes both ways. But that was the reason why they came to be. But inconsistent, I think, and I don't want to sound like I'm defending them, but I think in the grand scheme of things, when you look at the amount of cards that they grade per month and the amount of inconsistent strikes, I think the good far outweighs the bad. I think the number is probably less than 1% of cards that they absolutely get wrong, right? And a lot of it is, did they really get it wrong? A lot of it is, I know us, when we get PSA returns, we get overly sensitive about the grade that we got, and we start looking and inspecting for the card. And a lot of times, if I'm being honest, a lot of times like, oh man, I didn't see that, or yeah, I do remember seeing that, but I kind of like snuck it in there anyways, hoping that they wouldn't notice it. Yeah, they did notice it, and that's how come I got the grade that I got. And I'll be honest with you, and I don't know if you know anybody else like this, or maybe you're like this as well. Some of the reasons why I really like graded cards, especially those from PSA, is that I have always been a condition snob, even before grading came to be in the 1980s, and that I was always one of those guys who nitpick condition. And one of the more major ones for me is, centering. Centering has to be there. And when it comes to my vintage cards or even the cards in the 80s, the 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 eye appeal was very important. I don't like fuzzy cards. I don't like cards that are off focused and that sort of thing. And then to me, corners are the least that I'm concerned with. If it's a vintage card, I actually prefer it with a little bit of soft corners. To me, it just gives it character. But centering and focus is very, very important to me. And I've always been. And when it comes to like new stuff, this new stuff has to be Gem Mint 10 for me. I'm one where, when it comes to vintage cards, I am looking for the grade that I can afford, the highest grade that I can afford. When it comes to 80s, I prefer PSA 10s. They're cheap enough. They fit into my budget, with the exception of the Tiffany's. I can't touch those, but I can do a Tiffany in a 9. That I can do. When it comes to 90s, I would prefer 10s. Ultra modern, it's got to be PSA 10s for me, and that's what I prefer in my PC, and it has to do with what I like, right? It has to do with future value, and I'm not after collecting as many cards as I possibly can. I'm actually um, focused on a certain set of cards, and that's it. And I believe another reason why I prefer PSA slabs is my first submission that I ever did, which I believe it was around early 2000s, right in there, maybe 2000, 2001. My first submission was to Beckett, and I sent in a stack of cards, and the grades that I got back were so horrendous that it just absolutely churned me off with Beckett grading, and that was the one and only submission I ever sent to them. And then by 2003, I shifted my focus into Hall of Fame rookie cards and PSA slabs, and that's what I was doing prior to my exit from the hobby in 2004. Also, back then, SGC was more of a vintage or pre-war type grading company. I never could really afford pre-war. It has always been too expensive for me, and I think that's what kind of turned me off towards SGC. But I think PSA was the right product. It just felt right in my hand. They were gaining a lot of steam, and they just had like a really strong brand, like Coca-Cola. You know what I'm saying? And so I have a lot of positive first impressions with the brand strength, and Beckett SGC had always been out of not for me. Let me talk a little bit about turnaround times, because that seems to be another issue. Now, I really can't speak to this, to be honest with you, because my last 3 submissions have been right on schedule. So I have no real complaints here, with the exception of the pandemic, where I had a couple of submissions that were gone for like over a year. That's how bad that was. But they finally came in. But to be honest with you, other than that, we have to ask ourselves, what is the cause of this turnaround problem? And I think it's just the volume of cards that are coming in, and I think a lot of it is due to the flipping game. I think that has just done this hobby, has turned it upside down, and it just too many cards coming in, too many people focused on the flip and the secondary values of PSA cards in the market. That's where you make your money, and it just a nonstop flood of cards coming in. And it's hard to keep up. I mean, you're doing 1.6 million cards a month, guys. My goodness. And the flippers, they need it fast. And the problem is that there's a lot of people playing this same game, and I don't see the value in it. I really don't. But also, there's I can see PSA doing this price increase perhaps to kind of control the flow of the market, because I believe when we have Topps basketball getting ready to release next month, and it has a strong rookie class, I think PSA is just going to get even more inundated with product, with submissions, and that is a potential problem that is looming in the very near future. And it's reasons like this one that I'm just considering just not re-upping my membership, to be honest with you. A lot of complaints about customer service. Here's another area where I can't speak against that. Since I've come back to grading in 2015 till now, I've had to use customer service maybe a half a dozen times, and I was very well taken care of those half dozen times. So I can't really speak ill will towards customer service. But also, to me, the biggest miscue in customer service is the upcharge. I don't like the upcharge. The upcharge feels very scammy to me. And I know they advertise it as the insurance side of things, that if it gets lost in the mail, you're covered. If something goes wrong with authentication, and we find out later that there's been a ring of cut cards, or that sort of thing, that they will reimburse for that kind of thing. And they have kept their word on that on a lot of cases. But I don't like this upcharge things. I think there should be I think there should be an opt-out option. I think if you have like really high-end stuff and you're really worried about the shipping and all that, you can opt in um, for the insurance, right? But I think if you're sending a card in that has an estimated value of such and such dollar amount, and you're paying $500 or $1,000 to have that card graded, and it comes back better than you thought, and you're going to be upcharged again, it's like, to me, that just doesn't feel right. And I remember Nat Turner, before he took over PSA, I remember hearing him stating his displeasure about upcharges as well. And I'm sure he sees things differently now, and that's understandable as the CEO. But this part of it, to me, it stinks to high heaven. So the way I see it right now, I have only two options. And the first one is to not renew my membership, Collectors Club membership. Just let that phase out. I do enjoy the magazines, to be honest with you. I'm a big magazine fan. I even sent some magazines to get graded, but I only did that because it was the first year that they were released. I didn't send any of the older ones or the more recent ones. I only sent in the ones that were released in the first year. But I like reading those magazines. Those are very well written, very well put together. They're beautiful, beautifully designed, and I love them for a lot of reasons. But and my second option is to just stop sending in cards to get graded, and just buy what I want, what I need, and just let somebody else deal with the problem of submitting cards, and just kind of stay out of that game, at least for now. I think that's a viable option. I think maybe going through GameStop. There is a GameStop not but a half a mile down the road from me, and that's also a viable option. Just if I have, the other problem that I have with the Collectors Club, the value bulk, is they have like a 20 card minimum. And it's like, man, a lot of times I don't have 20 cards. I'm typically around 10 to 15 or 15 to 20. And so now I got to scramble around here looking for an additional 3 cards so that I can get the minimum. And how many times does that work? And so I'm just looking for a card to enter into the submission. And so that's a problem too. And so those are, I think, my 3 options now, right? I think I figured that out. Yes, I can stop renewing the membership club. I can just buy whatever card grade I need outright and let somebody else deal with the submission headaches. Or I can just go and just use GameStop for the 10 to 15 cards that I want to send in. And I haven't come to a final conclusion as to what I'm going to do yet. As for now, I'm holding steady, and I'm going to chew on this. I have my subscription renews in December, so I got a couple of months to kind of see how I want to navigate through these waters. And still going to be a PSA fanboy, if you want to call me that. Or loyal to PSA. I'm still going to be set registry #1 priority. It's the genre of collecting that I like to do, and as the old saying goes, collect what you like, right? And that's what I like. And so with that said, thanks for hearing me out, man. I just wanted to vent a little bit and kind of get some of these thoughts on video. Lastly, I wanted to share that, it's typically a weekly rookie card report is not going to happen this week because I am currently on a cruise in Cozumel, Mexico. And so I'm recording this several days in advance and scheduling it out. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back next week with our weekly rookie card report. Really enjoying those. And I am taking on the endeavor of learning about pre-war rookie cards and developing a system that will help me identify which cards are truly rookie cards. That's something that interests you. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes. And with all that said, appreciate your time and tuning in. Please consider subscribing. At the very least, hit that like button. Check out the tons of resources that I have in the show notes. And until next time, remember, my friends, that not all rookie cards are created equal.